My daughter leaned close and whispered something so quietly, I almost didn't hear it. But the moment I did, I froze. Because those words didn't come from a child. They came from a secret someone wanted buried forever. In that instant, I realized our family wasn't just being tested. We were standing at the edge of a truth that would change everything. My brother's hands tremble as I write this message. Marcus, we need you. Remember that thing? Now is our time. I press send, knowing that nothing will ever be the same again. 3 days ago, I found my daughter Rebecca at the driver's door of her house. 4 hours from the city. She was trembling as she spoke. Her last words as she got out of the driver's car sent a chill down my spine. Mom, my husband's mother did this. That woman told everything. Rebecca still had blood on her head, clinging to her hair. I had seen so much fear. She had run away from the hospital because she knew that if they went there, that family would call the police. Her husband, Gavin, was always on his mother's side. Always. My name is Ruby Chambers, an elderly, retired nurse, a woman with a garden, expecting a grandchild, a normal person. But when I found my daughter in this state at lunchtime, something deep within me awakened. He had brought her home. He had put her in a special place, the way my soldier brother had taught him. Without any hospital registration, without leaving any documents. Weeks passed and he had no news of me, of anyone. Rebecca is now 3 months pregnant. With a baby growing in her belly, there's a new determination in her eyes. And I had to call Marcus because we have to handle this together. When I returned home in October, the radio in my car was playing the weather report. A cold season was approaching. Autumn work was being completed on the farms. Everyone in town was going about their normal routine, but I remembered the bruises on my daughter's face. The car is old but reliable. He's had it for 18 years. As we drive along the country road, I see the red leaves through the window. Nature is calm, but I'm filled with anger. I've never felt this way before. The house where I grew up was in an established neighborhood, far from the city. Here, everyone knows each other. My father, a soldier, always used to say, "Our girl, in this world only the strong survive. The rest get lost." His mother, Zora, was a woman who had forgotten my father's words. She was a black woman, strong and proud, and my father, defying the norms of that region at the time, had married her. People grumbled. But those two didn't care. Rebecca's husband, Gavin, that was different. He was born into a wealthy family, someone who had always wanted everything. He was kind but frail. His mother, Lucille, wanted to control him. When I opened my door, Rebecca was already waiting there. She was wrapped in a blanket in the corner of the sofa. Her face looked much better. Her scars had turned yellow. But her eyes were so teary. "I was so hopeful to see you," she said. I went over to her. I gently stroked her hair. "Tell me what really happened." Rebecca began to explain. Lucille had taken her out of town. She said she was going to show her some new land. They stopped in the woods, and at that moment it was silent. There was no one there. Lucille had treated the child like someone who was angry with her. She called her names, bad words, and then she took something metallic out of her car. "A wheel changer," Rebecca whispered. After that, she reportedly called her family. Lucille picked up her phone and called someone. Then she left Rebecca there and went away. My hands tensed when Rebecca said it. I felt not anger but determination. She needed to teach me a lesson, but how? I picked up the phone. I called Marcus. He works in another city in the state. He has a military background, and he hasn't forgotten anything my father taught him. "I need you," I said on the phone. "1 minute," said Marcus. Then he hung up, saying, "We'll talk later." I couldn't sleep that night. Rebecca was recovering, but not quickly. Psychologically, she was getting worse. She would wake up in a cold sweat at night, screaming in her dreams. But during the day, she tried to appear strong. On the 4th day, Marcus arrived. As I let him in, I saw how much he had changed. He had aged, or perhaps the journey had tired him out. It had been years since we'd last embraced. Our vision was blurred. Marcus examined Rebecca, with the eye of an old nurse, just like our father taught us. He checked her wounds. He felt for broken bones. "We have a plan," Marcus told me. "But it's risky." Lucille Sterling is known as a family counselor. He's a foundation director. The public loves him. He has a daughter and a wife. She's not someone else's daughter. She's the people's daughter. If we openly accuse him, Marcus said, he knows everything. Money has power. Instead, we needed to find evidence. Rebecca's phone, the records of Lucille's call, proof, real proof. Rebecca's wallet, I found her phone. The password is 9237, her mother's birth year. There were photos on the phone, documents. Rebecca hadn't stolen them. They were still there, open. Lucille was doing it to keep an eye on her son-in-law. Illegal financial transactions. Documents altering money records. He saw it, I said, raising my voice. Yes, said Rebecca. And I asked him. Marcus sat down at the table. He was deep in thought. If he opens it, he said, it's over for him. But we need to be smarter. We thought the way our father taught us. Lucille Sterling's wife, Arthur Sterling. Money, power, prestige. Rich at the time of the divorce, but not considered among the good people. But Rebecca knew his personal phone number. Marcus know about this? Yes, he said. I found out through a friend. We started the plan. Mail, documents, facts. Naked, raw facts. Where the money went. Lucille's accounts. That foreign account for Lucille's lover. We invited Arthur Sterling to meet us at a restaurant. We were going to tell him about what Lucille had done. But it required being prepared like a real tiger. Not making mistakes. Not showing cowardice. Marcus was over 40, but he still looked like a virgin. A soldier's walk. A soldier's gaze. You know, she said to me. Our father forced us to be like this, didn't he? To be strong. Yes, I said. If we had told anyone about this, said Marcus, we would all be dead. Really? Yes, he said to the press. That night I visited Rebecca before she went to sleep. She was looking out the window. It was dark outside. Are you scared? I asked. A lot, he said. I know, sweetie, I said, stroking her hair. But we're here. What if we fail? We won't fail, I said. And I believed it. By the end of October, everything was ready. Marcus's old friends arrived. 3 men, military-like in demeanor, quiet, professional. You will follow the plan, Marcus told them. In the restaurant, at the table, nothing will be visible. Lucille's actions were now clear. But Arthur didn't know yet. Lucille hadn't told him, because it was said that Arthur had someone in charge. Very old-fashioned, very strict. Not wealthy, but honorable. Perhaps we could win him over to our side. Evening came. Marcus and I went to the restaurant. Rebecca didn't stay home. She kept an eye on the symptoms in the hospital. Arthur Sterling was sitting and drinking coffee. A tall man with silver hair and a thoughtful expression. Marcus sat down. So did I. We opened our documents. Arthur's face froze like stone. You're lying, he said. My Lucille isn't that kind of woman. But, said Marcus, there's also the fact that you love someone else. We gave Arthur the photographs. The chilling images of Lucille. With a young man, on a world tour, in hotels, together. The silence of that moment overwhelmed me. Arthur's hand started to tremble. With a woman like that, with someone in charge, he said. She cheated on me. She cheated on all of us. Then he looked up. What do you want? He said. Cash? No, I said. Rebecca's safety, and Lucille's punishment. Arthur questioned what we knew and what we didn't know. Not like an unbeliever, but like a man who was angry. I, he said then, will herd Lucille away. Far away. A woman like that cannot live here. We agreed. 2 weeks later, Lucille Sterling went to South America for treatment, paid for by Arthur. But there were limits to how long he could stay in another country. Rebecca and I were safe now. Marcus's heart had been severely wounded psychologically, but he was pulling himself together. One day, Rebecca, Marcus, and I were sitting in the garden drinking tea. The sun was setting, as if about to pour down its golden light. We won, Marcus said simply. Yes, I said. We won. Rebecca's belly was growing now. She could feel the baby. She could talk to it. Her name will be Zoe, he said. In the 4th month, Rebecca hired a lawyer. Arthur helped, outlining the rules. The divorce was simple. Lucille was gone, and Gavin was busy with another woman. But the spell had changed. In Rebecca's eyes, summer arrived. Rebecca sat in the garden every day, reading books. My nurse secretary friends visited. Marcus came twice a week. Arthur thanked me once a month. He had always been quiet, this man with his opposite sides. But perhaps people can change, I thought. In June, Rebecca's pain started. We took her to the hospital. Zoe was born, a girl with black hair who cried loudly. What name did his father give him? I asked. My father's mother, Rebecca said. Like my grandmother. Strong, brave, never giving up. I want Zoe. She can't help but think of my mother, Zora. Even back then, in memory of the name Zora, she was like a new goddess of titles. Autumn came again. Zoe had been gone for 5 months. Marcus loved her. One day there was an unexpected visit. Gavin arrived. Rebecca's moderate, beautiful, anxious. "I want to see my daughter," he said. Rebecca shook her head. "Do you know what you did?" she asked. "My mother almost killed me. And you? You did nothing." Gavin left. There were tears in his eyes. But Rebecca closed the door. "Being a father means protecting," Rebecca told me as she held Zoe in her arms. I approved it. November grew cold. Snowy mountains, a frozen lake. Zoe was sleeping. Rebecca, Marcus, and I were sitting in the garden. The stars were twinkling in the sky. "Our father used to say," I said, "blood is meaningful. Karakan is the root, but it carries meaning." Marcus smiled. "Zoe has power in her blood," he said. "I'm sure of it." Rebecca rested her head on my shoulder and cried. It was a cry of happiness. Most people would never understand that. But we, the Chambers family, knew. That power is silent. That determination comes after desperation. That justice comes without malice. The events didn't happen at a single point, but at different times. Therefore, it wasn't initially seen as a whole. The pieces were scattered. No one tried to put them together. Each piece was considered insignificant on its own. As time passed, it became clear that this approach was flawed. The pieces began to come together. The resulting picture was different from what was expected. This difference shifted the process to another point. The old assumptions were no longer valid. When winter came, everything changed. Zoe was almost 6 months old. She was growing rapidly, opening her eyes, and beginning to explore her surroundings. Rebecca, on the other hand, was slowly returning to her old self. The flower in her eyes bloomed again. Marcus had bought a small apartment next to his house. He spent most of the week there. His job had changed a bit. Now he was a manager at a private security firm. But he never strayed far from us. Arthur Sterling was watching us intently. Quiet and shy, he wanted to come once a month to see Zoe. Rebecca, with a certain resolve in her mind, allowed him to come. She hadn't asked herself, does he deserve to be Zoe's grandfather? But since he wasn't her father, perhaps he could help. In December, Arthur gave us some news. "I'm going to have surgery," he said while having tea. "It's a heart problem. In Switzerland, they have the best doctors." Rebecca stared coldly. "You'll succeed," she said. But lines of worry were visible on her face. Arthur smiled. "I won't be here for a while, but I want to see Zoe grow up, so..." He pulled a file from his pocket. "The new will. Everything is written in Zoe's name." Rebecca began to cry. Not sadness, perhaps surprise, perhaps gratitude. "I don't need you," he said. "But it's necessary," said Arthur. "Zoe needs it." In January, Arthur boarded the plane. Green forests and countryside were visible in the back row. We saw him off at the airport terminal. "Come back safe and sound," I said. "I'll be back," he said, "to see my grandson's first step." Zoe grew older. People in the city started talking. Lucille Sterling's daughter was in a very bad state, and that woman had run away. Nobody knew for sure, but there were rumors. Marcus one day, "Do people know?" "Partially," he said. Arthur kept quiet. "But the city speaks. Things are leaking." Rebecca wasn't worried. She felt a sense of confidence now. She had the power to protect Zoe, and she knew Marcus was behind her, and me. In February, a letter arrived. From Lucille, with a foreign postage stamp. The names were written only as LS. Rebecca didn't want to open it. "Don't burn it," Marcus said. But Rebecca wanted to read it. She showed it to me. The letter contained only a few sentences. "You didn't deserve this. People like you have no right to meddle in our families. The time will come when I'll get out of this." It was like a threat, but a distant, ineffective threat. Rebecca, with a cold smile, tore the letter to pieces. "Let him come," he said. "We are ready." Spring had arrived. Zoe was almost 9 months old. Her laughter echoed throughout the house. Rebecca talked to her, giggled with her, and played games with her. Flowers were blooming in the garden. Our world seemed small and safe. However, one day in the afternoon, the doorbell rang. Marcus opened the door. He recognized the man, Arthur's lawyer. "Sir," he said with a didactic tone, "bad news. Arthur Sterling has contracted an infection following surgery. Right now?" Rebecca's face turned completely white. "Is it in the past?" I asked. "Unfortunately, no," said the lawyer. The doctors did everything they could, but ridiculous. No. Impossible. Arthur said he would return healthy, but life wasn't unfolding according to its promises. There were about 50 people at the funeral. Lucille hadn't come. Gavin's worried face was visible. Arthur's business partners bowed their heads respectfully. Rebecca, in a black dress, held Zoe in her arms. Marcus stood beside her like a herd protector. The priest spoke of Arthur's life. He was a successful man. Stern? Yes. But he also had a loving grandfather in his final months. Rebecca didn't cry. Her eyes were filled not with tears, but with determination. Then the lawyer approached. "You'll need to sign some documents," he said. Bahar left behind a mess. Managing Arthur's inheritance wasn't impossible, but it required attention. Rebecca hired staff and private lawyers. She sorted out the financial matters. Zoe's future was completely secure. Lucille's situation worsened considerably. She spent all her money in the South American city. We received some news, even though we didn't ask for it. She's alone. She knows no one. She's sick. She's old. Do you care? I asked Rebecca. No, he said simply. It just makes me sad. Maybe he's a failure, but he's still a human being. Compassion. Compassion beyond anger. That's what defined Rebecca as a woman. In June, at the beginning of summer, Zoe got her first tooth. It was a small event, but a source of joy for us. Marcus once asked me, "Do you regret anything of what we did?" "No," I said firmly. "Because Zoe is alive. Rebecca is free. That's enough." Marcus nodded. Our father used to say, "A rose won't grow green on trash. But if we clean up the trash, the rose will grow green." Yes, our father Marcus may not have been a good person, but he knew the right person. Initially, everyone moved at the same pace. No one stopped to look around lest they fall behind. This speed caused some details to be overlooked. Later, these details became crucial. No matter how much they were ignored, their effects were felt. This effect disrupted the balance of the process. The usual responses didn't work. A new approach was needed, but time was running out, and the circumstances had changed. In July, there was an unexpected visit. Gavin arrived. But this time he wasn't alone. He was accompanied by a young woman. She was pregnant. Rebecca stood in the doorway, surprised. Marcus immediately tensed up. "Hello," said Gavin, in a neurotic but serious voice. "New life, new woman, but..." "But," said Rebecca, "but I want documents relating to Zoe, officially. I want to be legally registered as her father, not just as her father." Rebecca smiled. A bitter smile. "No," he said simply. "You're not his father. Fathers protect. You're confused about the concept of protection." Gavin's face flushed, but he calmed down quickly. "Okay," he said. "I understand." And he left. Rebecca closed the door. "Even Zoe's grandfather is dead and gone. Her father wouldn't want her," she said. "My daughter will have her own destiny." From Lucille started arriving sometimes. Not threats, no, maybe things like apologies. But Rebecca chose not to read them. "The past is the past," he said. Marcus, however, thought a little differently. One day he spoke to me. "Lucille is dying," he said. "My doctor friends told me. Lung disease. She probably has a few months left." Rebecca didn't know this. Marcus told me, perhaps out of a sense of responsibility. "If I tell her, she'll be upset," Marcus said. "If I don't tell her, I'll feel guilty." "Silence," I said. "Peace is best right now." We chose silence. In September, Zoe started to walk. With shaky steps between the tables, laughing. Rebecca was behind her, arms outstretched, letting her fall, picking her up, and making her walk again. Marcus was taking pictures. "If our father saw this," he said, "he would be so happy." "He sees," I said. "Maybe from somewhere else, but he sees." If I wanted to believe that, I had to believe it. When October arrived, I received a letter from the lawyer. It contained an appendix to Arthur's last will and testament. "Ruby Chambers," it read, "you are Zoe's grandmother. There is something in this for you most of all." I opened it. There was a gold watch, with stars engraved in beautiful patterns, and a note. "I chose you, Ruby, because you are strength. You are not indifferent. You are not unbiased. If I had to choose, I would choose you to stay with Rebecca. And when Zoe grows up, tell her. Tell her how strong Zora, her grandmother, was. Tell her this." Rebecca handed me the letter. There were tears in her eyes. "That man," he said, "maybe he arrived too late. But he came. From the outside, the situation seemed ordinary. but inside, a different process was at work. This process was not known to everyone. Those who knew preferred not to speak. This preference created uncertainty. Uncertainty led to misinterpretations. Misinterpretations affected the next steps. This effect spread in a chain reaction. The resulting consequences were more severe than expected, and the direction of the process changed permanently. One evening, at the beginning of winter, Rebecca, Marcus, Zoe, and I sat by the fire. Zoe was holding Marcus's finger. Rebecca was watching the snow outside the window. Marcus asked, "Won't you regret it?" "For the rest of my life?" Rebecca nodded. "She doesn't regret it. Am I stronger now?" "Very much so. Zoe will grow up and hopefully won't be this strong, because she will be able to make choices. She won't be forced to like I was." "She's right. We were forced to, but Zoe would have to choose." December was the last month. Our town was preparing for the new year. On the other hand, had a quiet Christmas. Rebecca had a dress made for Zoe. Marcus bought toys. I got a soft blanket. On Christmas morning, Zoe opened her presents, started making noises, happy. Rebecca took pictures, and I watched the outside world from the window. In the distance, snow-covered trees. Our houses are illuminated by warm light. Marcus is smiling happily. Rebecca is radiating joy. Zoe is a real baby now, a human response. This, I guess, was a success. Our success. I'm ashamed to say these things, I said to myself. But have we become better people? I heard voices from somewhere. Maybe just the wind. Maybe our father, our mother. Maybe they were saying, yes, what we did wasn't bad. Justice isn't always brutal. Sometimes it's gentle. On New Year's Day, an unexpected letter arrived. From Lucille. Rebecca wanted to open it this time. Marcus didn't stop her and let her. "Have you forgiven me?" Lucille wrote, "I know it's too late, but perhaps, knowingly, realizing I was wrong is a step forward." Rebecca read the letter slowly. "For Zoe, I wish a long life. I wish I had one too. My child Gavin chose not to understand me. Understandable, but you, perhaps at least once, will look into my eyes to forgive me. I won't be stubborn. Let's just wish." Rebecca, with tears in her eyes, placed the letter on the table. "Are you going to reply?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "I'll write one line, I forgive you. But I haven't forgotten. It's perhaps too late to change, but thank you for trying. The letter has been sent." To Lucille, reply. By the time spring arrived, Zoe was over a year old. She was growing rapidly and had begun to speak words. "Grandpa," she said once, not remembering Arthur. But perhaps she knew him through her own DNA. Rebecca woke up. She would go to Zoe's side and kiss her on the forehead. It was like a promise of protection. Marcus had been successful in his work. His house was full of furniture, but he couldn't go out often. He made time for us. I, on the other hand, felt myself growing old in the garden. My legs ached. My wrinkles were darker. But in my eyes was the serenity of an old woman. For the first time, I carried no worries. In early summer, a phone call came. It was from his doctor friend, Marcus. "Lucille is dead," he said, peacefully in her sleep. Rebecca's head wasn't trembling. There was just something quiet. Perhaps sadness, perhaps comfort. "A funeral ceremony?" I asked. "Nobody came," said the doctor. She was so alone, nobody at all. Rebecca decided to write a letter and send a bouquet of flowers. The type was light-colored, yellow. "For beauty," he said. Perhaps in the final stage he saw beauty. October has returned, a year later. Everything seems to have balanced out in its cycle. I'm Marcus, Rebecca, and Zoe, a small family, but strong, connected. One day, while sitting in the garden, Rebecca asked, "Tell me always, Anne, if we did the right thing?" I looked at her. Her eyes resembled Zora's. My mother, grandmother, strong woman. "Yes," I said, "we did the right thing." For Zoe, Rebecca leaned her head on my shoulder and cried. A cry of happiness, and I stroked her hair with my hands, like fathers do. I felt the warmth of motherhood. Zoe ran around beside us, making sounds with her hands. Cheerful sounds. This was our story. Darkness on the outside, light on the inside. Violence on the outside, love on the inside. Lucille was gone. Gavin was gone. Arthur was gone. But we were still here. We were strong. 2 years later, Zoe turned 3. The center of her world was the garden, Marcus's homemade toys, and mine. Rebecca was working at her desk, continuing with her remote work. Life flowed like a steady river. One day in March, the phone rang. It was Arthur's lawyer. There was worry in his voice. "Mrs. Chambers," he said. Gavin wants to see you. It's an urgent matter. Rebecca and I looked at each other. She hadn't seen Gavin in 3.5 years. Why now? A week later, we met at a cafe outside of town. Marcus would wait at a distance if necessary. Gavin was a stark contrast to his former self. His hair was gray, his face lined. He looked hardworking, but also devastated. "Hello," he said to Rebecca in a waitress-like tone. He sat down inside. "What's new?" I asked without wasting any time. Gavin took a deep breath. "Lucille," he said. "My mother. Before she died, she left a letter. Things about me. Things about Zoe." Rebecca tensed up. "What kind of things?" Gavin pulled out a file. It contained photographs, documents, and letters. "My mother," Gavin said, speaking rapidly. "Lucille wasn't just a bad person. She had trauma. Her childhood was very difficult. But that doesn't forgive her. It doesn't forgive anything." Rebecca was listening intently to Gavin. "But," Gavin continued, "in his letters he writes to you, Rebecca. Perhaps to be better understood." Rebecca received the letters, her hand trembling. "She hasn't read them yet. Why are you giving this to me?" he asked. "Because," Gavin said, "I owe Zoe. I owe you. I don't want to lend you money. Maybe I'm a better person now. There's therapy, a different life, and I want to know that." Rebecca placed the letters on the table. "Go," she said. "Another girl?" Gavin said. "Open and honest. No secrets. If Zoe ever wants to see me, I'll be there. But I'm not starting. I'm not starting with you." She left. Rebecca spent hours reading the letters. I sat beside her. Lucille's writing, there was a woman. Awkward, sorrowful but human. Her childhood was marked by abandonment by her father. Her mother was sickly. When she married, there was anger and control. She was a heartbroken woman, perhaps, Rebecca asked after finishing the letters. "No," I said. "But understanding, perhaps, yes." Rebecca nodded silently. In April, Marcus informed us. A new job offer. In another city, a higher position, but it would be far away. "Are you going?" I asked. "Yes," he said, "but I'll be coming often. On weekends. At least 1 week here every month." Rebecca looked worried. "We'll be alone," she said. "You're not," I said. "You're mine." Marcus hugged me. After all these years together, not like soldiers, but like brothers. In May, Marcus left. He sold half his house and rented an apartment in the new city. But every Saturday evening he would drive his car home. Zoe missed him. "Uncle, uncle!" she screamed at the door. Marcus lifted him up and tossed him in the air, laughing. How much the man has changed, I thought. From a soldier to a kind person. One Saturday, Marcus asked me, "You know, Ruby, our father taught us these things. Strength, self-control, justice. But he never taught us any of them without love." "Yes," I said. "Without love, there is only suffering." "Zoe," Marcus said, holding her in his arms. "Unfortunately, she won't be able to carry the same burdens. She will be able to make choices. She will be able to choose a good life." One afternoon in June, the doorbell rang. A stranger, a woman, pale hair, worried eyes, in her 30s. "Hello," she said. "I'm Sophie, Gavin's wife. Well, soon to be his wife." Rebecca was surprised. She called Marcus from the hallway. Sophie said she wanted to see Zoe. "I'm not starting," she said. "But Gavin told you and Zoe that he wants to be well. Maybe Zoe will need a father someday, and maybe I can hold a place for her." Rebecca observed Sophie carefully. She seemed sincere, not artificial. Rebecca asked, strangely politely. Sophie came in. She sat down. Zoe looked at her curiously. She wasn't very interested in strangers, but Sophie gave her a toy. A simple bird shape. "Welcome," Rebecca finally said. "If Gavin is a good man, he can see Zoe. But be careful." "She's my child." "I know," said Sophie. "That's why I'm here." July has arrived with warm weather. Tourists have started to come to our town. The garden has entered barbecue season. Marcus gave us some news. He'd been promoted to manager at the new company. His salary had doubled. But unfortunately, he'd have less time in town. "Once a month for a full week," he said. "That's best." Rebecca understood. This is life. One Saturday, Sophie came over. Gavin was with her. While Zoe played in the garden, they sat with us. Gavin looked at Rebecca. "Thank you," he said. "For what you said, Zoe. I was watching the recording. Thank you for giving me a second chance." Rebecca said it wasn't cold, but it wasn't hot either. I made it for Zoe, she said. Not for you. I know, said Gavin. And that's good. Sophie followed Zoe in her play. The child easily grew fond of her. Marcus, Rebecca, and I sat on the veranda, in silence. But this silence wasn't disturbing. It was peaceful. At this point, there were no clear answers to everything. Some questions remained unanswered. Some were never even asked. It was impossible to fit everything that happened into a single framework. Because what happened wasn't just limited to what was visible. There were details in the background. These details weren't voiced loudly, but they weren't ignored either. As time passed, the real effects began to emerge. Seemingly small moments gained more meaning. The points of silence became heavier. What was left, unsaid, left as much of a mark as what was said. This process did not unfold as expected. The predicted outcomes did not materialize. Some decisions were made too late. Some were not made at all. This uncertainty affected the course of events. Everything seemed under control, but it wasn't. This realization didn't happen overnight. It was understood gradually, through time and careful observation. Everyone evaluated the events from their own perspective. These evaluations differed. There was no single truth. A single point of view was insufficient. Therefore, the outcomes were not clearly defined. Some things were accepted as they were. Others were left behind. This story may seem to end here, but not every story ever truly ends. Some simply pause at a certain point. This is one of them, without a definitive conclusion, but without losing its meaning, with the impact left by what happened, silently yet permanently.